longtime local news leader. Fox 22 News at 10.
The state of Maine is in the midst of what many are calling an EMS crisis. Good evening, and thank you for joining us. I'm Beth Jones.
And I'm Devin Dagnall. As we continue to see a shortage of healthcare and emergency medical services, Senator Susan Collins has helped secure funding for EMS programs at Eastern Maine Community College as they work to train the next generation. Our Grace Blanchard shares more.
When people make a 911 call, they expect a trained professional will be there to help.
If you're an older person with health problems, you want to be sure that there's an ambulance with trained EMTs available to serve you.
While the state continues to grapple with EMS workforce shortages, Senator Susan Collins has secured nearly $3 million in congressionally directed spending to support EMS training at Eastern Maine Community College.
That's exactly the kind of innovation that we need to solve what really is a crisis in the state of Maine.
The funding has gone towards newly upgraded classroom instructional equipment, including a new ambulance. EMCC's president says the money is also helping them expand their nursing, medical radiography, and EMS programs to reach more students in rural areas by delivering remote learning options in cohorts.
That cuts down on their travel. It allows them to focus on their communities and ultimately end up working in their communities.
EMCC's EMS program director says the goal is to provide hands-on training that gives students the needed skills and confidence necessary for EMS services.
Folks participating in EMS have a lot of trust in their communities have a lot of trust in us, and we have to work hard to build that here at the foundational level.
We're sort of learning how to cope with the stress and think through the protocols even when we're maybe a little nervous, and that's been really helpful.
In Bangor, Grace Blanchard, ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
A proposal that would make it a felony to endanger the welfare of a child who dies or is seriously injured as the result of drug exposure has the backing of Maine prosecutors and sheriffs. Under the current law, a parent who leaves illegal drugs where children could ingest them can only be charged with a misdemeanor, no matter the long-term impact the drug or drugs may have had on the child. The proposal would also apply to parents or caregivers who leave guns where children can easily access them. If passed, the legislative proposal would make it a Class B felony if a child dies due to a reckless disregard for his or her safety, and a Class C crime if a child were seriously injured for that same reason. Supporters say the bill will help protect children, but opponents disagree, saying enforcement could have unintended consequences.
It's hard for me to envision anybody more vulnerable than a baby that has fentanyl within their reach. And I take issue with the proposition that this law would further stigmatize or hinder rehabilitation efforts of parents in active addiction.
This bill would, as presented, criminalize victims of domestic violence for being victims when they fail to leave an abusive partner and that partner then seriously injures or kills their child.
The bill will now face a committee work session before being voted on by the full legislature.
Well, with the legislature as a whole failing to pass a supplemental budget last week, Democratic lawmakers are instead turning their focus on passing a budget without Republican support. Our Augusta reporter Corey Bouchard has the story.
What we know is that the refusal of Republicans in the Senate to go along with a deal that they had actually agreed to previously means that they effectively torpedoed funding that was going to go to healthcare providers for services they've already provided.
Garrett Martin, the president of the Maine Center for Economic Policy, is talking about the failure of the Maine legislature last week in trying to pass a supplemental budget. Friday evening, the Appropriations and Financial Affairs Committee voted on a new budget that cleared the committee along party lines.
We also took those really important items from the supplemental budget, the funding for the Maine Care Program, for hospitals and nursing homes and pharmacy services, the funding for the spraying to protect our forests.
Republicans who failed to get behind the supplemental budget and are unlikely to get behind this new budget say, while they agree with funding the government, they don't agree with the Democrats on how certain services like Maine Care should be managed.
Well, I think we want Maine to pay its bills. Absolutely. It was something that we promised, and that's what we want. What we don't want is every other tax increase and program being put through without its time to be examined. And if they're going to put all that together, we have to stand for the long term, which in Maine is to make sure taxpayer money spent correctly.
When it comes to budgets in Maine, lawmakers have two options. If it clears both the House and the Senate with 2/3 majority, the funding can go into effect immediately. If they have to pass it with just a simple majority, they would need to end the entire legislative session, in which case the budget will go into effect after 90 days, which Martin says would be dire.
It will, without question, mean that we potentially have missed the window of opportunity to treat our forest for the spruce budworm. For the providers who have already seen cutbacks in the amount of reimbursement they're getting, they're either going to have to make the decision of can we sustain until we're made whole on this, or are we going to have to make some cuts in the near term that are going to affect the services available to the people that we serve.
According to Democrats, the legislature is not expected to take up the budget on Tuesday. At the State House, I'm Corey Bouchard for ABC7 and Fox 22 News.
In other news tonight, Holden police say they arrested a man this morning as part of a month-long investigation regarding drug trafficking and theft. Our Callie Warren has details.
So we're investigating drug trafficking, mainly fentanyl.
After some painstaking police work, one man is in custody after Holden police caught up to him at a home on the Copeland Hill Road.
It's part of an ongoing drug and theft investigation. We have made one arrest. Michael Tardif was part of the target of this investigation. He was arrested on a separate warrant. Charges are still pending.
40-year-old Michael Tardif was arrested on an outstanding warrant and was later arrested at the Penobscot County Jail for theft and violation of conditional release. Holden police executed a search warrant at Tardif's home at 90 Copeland Hill Road in Holden, where they seized multiple items and detained 2 other individuals.
We've detained one other person. I'm not going to reveal his name right now. Actually, 2 other people, because they're not being charged with anything at this time.
Lieutenant Whitehouse says there are likely more charges to come.
And we expect in the coming days that we'll conclude this investigation with some other arrests and charges.
As the department cracks down on fentanyl trafficking in the community.
Fentanyl is a very dangerous drug, and it takes a very small amount for somebody to overdose and die on. You know, it's poisoning our communities, and we're going to continue to do the hard fight.
In Holden, Callie Warren, ABC7 and Fox 22 News.
Employment rose in Maine's 2 largest counties from September 2023 to September 2024. That's according to a report put out today by the U.S. Bureau of Labor Statistics. Together, York and Cumberland counties accounted for 41.7% of total covered employment within the state. Among the smaller 14 counties, Saginaw reported the highest average weekly wage. Franklin and Piscataquis counties reported the lowest average weekly wages in the state.
Well, $2 million in grants will be going to 40 Maine businesses and nonprofit organizations. The funds will help support their recovery and rebuilding process due to the devastating storms that hit last winter. The grant money comes from the storm relief package established by the governor with the bipartisan support of the legislature. Some of the recipients include Bass Harbor Cottages in Tremont, Moosabec Mussel in Jonesport, and Beach House at French's Point in Stockton Springs. And that is a long, ongoing recovery process, so we're sure those businesses need all the help they can get.
Absolutely.
All right, well, let's hit pause here and peek outside for our first check of our forecast.
All right, Beth, thank you. Your first weather is brought to you by Old Town Redemption, offering a 10% bonus on your returnables and a monthly $100 draw. And let's talk weather. Here we are. Highs today. Yeah, look at this. 51 here in Bangor, 53 Millinocket. This is way, way above average, but even warmer temperatures are in the 5-day forecast. Also in there are some more rain showers. So here's the radar now. There's nothing really heavy in here, but it is persistent. So light rain showers out there tonight will likely end as a couple light snow flurries to the west of us already now, early parts of tomorrow morning. Okay, so here's the system now pulling out of here tonight and tomorrow too, likely keeping things cloudy tomorrow before we get some better weather in here tomorrow afternoon. Our forecast ends looking at lots of rain showers out there, ending as a couple of snow flurries, low temperatures in the 30s. Your full forecast is coming up.
All right, Jeff, thank you. And still to come on Fox 22 News at 10, our Jody Hersey was in Bath to highlight this year's USA Winter Championships.
Bring your new kitchen to life with help from the Kitchen, Bath, and Flooring Division by Hammond Lumber Company. Bring in your ideas or get inspired by Hammond's extensive showroom displays. Your Hammond sales rep will help you create a materials list and cost estimate, and Hammond's designers will help you visualize your space before the work begins. And Hammond delivers from 22 locations across Maine and New Hampshire. Your new kitchen begins when you bring your vision to Hammond Lumber Company, your building project partner.
Here at Twin City Tire and Service, you will be working with industry professionals. We have ASE certified master technicians and certified tire and lube technicians. If we need your vehicle for a duration of time, we offer a complimentary shuttle service and can even offer a loaner vehicle. Being a client at Twin City Tire and Service means that we will treat you right. This includes a 3-year, 36,000-mile warranty on mechanical repairs. We also provide you with 1 year of complimentary roadside assistance. Come see us today at Twin City Tire and Service in Brewer.
Winter is a time to get outside and enjoy all that Maine has to offer. And when it's time to come inside, rest assured everything's toasty because of your Fujitsu heat pump from Valley Home Services. Push a button and you'll be snuggling up on the couch in no time. Valley Home Services offers reliable rebates, significant energy savings, and expert installation. And now save $500 off each indoor unit for all systems installed by April 1st. Embrace the comfort of Fujitsu heat pumps from Valley Home Services. Call or click today.
Here's the tale of a farmer man searching for love all across the land. He's a farmer man. He needs someone to share his life. Find a woman to be his loving wife. He's a farmer man.
Some girls are trying to touch Matt's avocados. Didn't like it.
He's a farmer man.
Welcome back. Despite tensions between the U.S. and Canada over tariffs, young athletes visiting Maine to compete at swimming are coming together. We found swimmers from both countries competing in the Winter Championships over the weekend, where the athletes were making waves and building friendships at the same time. Our Jody Hersey has more.
Hundreds of swimmers from YMCAs across the state of Maine gathered to compete against one another and against athletes from Nova Scotia at the USA Winter Championships. This 4-day event is held every March at Bowdoin College.
Swimming is a really unique sport in that it is a team sport, but it is still very much an individual sport. You have kids that are often just trying to beat their own best time, but when they get in the pool and can compete against somebody who's equally as fast or faster than they are from a different team, it creates that sense of competition.
The Bangor YMCA Barracudas brought 44 swimmers to the event. Coach Sean Rich says that's double the amount from a year ago.
You know, the journey is important. You know, going to practice every day, you know, working hard, getting better is important. And so overall, it has a positive impact on them.
While the competition is fierce in the water, outside of the pool is where these swimmers are making connections, discussing maple syrup, the difference between yards versus meters, and exchanging souvenirs.
They've been handing out like little Canadian flag pins. And other teams, if you want, you could trade caps for some of their caps, which is pretty cool.
Of course, there is big competition here, people we've never seen before. But yeah, like when we're looking at the heat sheets, like lots of us have made our finals, so I think we're doing really well.
Each swimmer here giving their all to their team, their sport, and the country that they love.
At the end of the day, it's not about whether this team won or lost. It's about, did this child do what they wanted to do in the pool and accomplish the goal that they had set out to accomplish.
In Brunswick, I'm Jody Hersey for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
And those interested in the sport of swimming can contact the Bangor YMCA and ask about the Future Barracudas program or register for the upcoming spring and summer swim teams.
Yeah, that looks like so much fun. It's, I mean, competing as a kid is a great experience to begin with. It teaches you so much. And swimming is tough. So, I mean, if you're in shape for swimming, you're there.
Can conquer anything at that
point. I
point.
would say so. Well, coming up on the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22, the White House says Iran should pay attention to President Trump's threats of more action. This coming after airstrikes by the Trump administration over the weekend.
And powerful storms swept through several states in the Midwest and South, killing at least 39 and leaving behind major damage over the weekend. Those stories and more as the 10 p.m. news on Fox 22 continues.
Looking for reliable tree care? Cousins Tree Service offers tree removals, pruning, maintenance, and more. Staffed with a licensed and insured arborist, we prioritize safety and customer satisfaction. Contact the team at Cousins Tree Service for professional tree solutions.
Roto-Rooter has served the greater Bangor area and beyond for 35 years, offering plumbing, hydrojetting, snaking, descaling, video inspection, and grease interceptor cleaning services. For all your residential and commercial clogs, call Roto-Rooter today, 990-1234.
And away go troubles down the drain. Roto-Rooter.
Rowell's Garage has been serving customers in the greater Dover-Foxcroft region since 1946. Our goal is not just selling you a vehicle, but also giving you quality service to maintain your vehicle at peak performance. Browse our inventory online or in person. Whether it's a car, truck, or SUV, we can put you in the vehicle that is right for you. Sales, service, and parts. Rowell's Garage, doing business the right way every day.
Foggy's Pub, your place for fun, food, and friends in Palmyra, Maine.
Looking for reliable tree care? Cousins Tree Service offers tree removals, pruning, maintenance, and more. Staffed with a licensed and insured arborist, we prioritize safety and customer satisfaction. Contact the team at Cousins Tree Service for professional tree solutions.
There's one number you need to know. It's called Joe.
President Trump is warning Iran that it could suffer serious consequences over further attacks from Houthi rebels. The Trump administration targeted the Iran-backed group in airstrikes over the weekend, killing at least 53 people. Fox's chief foreign correspondent Trey Yingst reports from Tel Aviv.
Thousands of Houthi supporters gather in the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, chanting against the United States and Israel. They say American strikes against their country will only unite the resistance.
The American and Israeli strikes that fell on our great Yemeni people will not weaken us or defeat us, but rather they increase our determination and steadfastness in confronting the enemies of God.
American officials say additional attacks on U.S. forces or commercial shipping lanes will be met with heavier action, as reports indicate fresh American strikes overnight. President Trump echoing that sentiment today in a statement posted to Truth Social, saying, quote, any further attack or retaliation by the Houthis will be met with great force, and there is no guarantee that that force will stop there. The commander-in-chief specifically naming Iran as the main backer of the Houthis, and thus responsible for any future escalation, such as the targeting of U.S. aircraft carriers.
Our message to Iran is you better take this president seriously, and I think the Houthis learned that the hard way.
President Trump personally oversaw the initial American strikes against the Houthis, with the White House releasing a photo of him still in golf gear, wearing a headset. With the region bracing for escalation between the Americans and the Houthis, U.S. ally Israel remains on high alert, fearing the possibility of retaliation targeting their country. Close coordination is expected to continue between Washington and Jerusalem over this threat. Today, speaking to the UN Security Council, Iran denied any destabilizing activity in the Middle East, calling accusations against their country baseless. In Tel Aviv, Trey Yingst, Fox News.
Well, meanwhile, Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's decision last week to vote for a Republican-led spending bill is now pitting some in his party against each other. Democrats are still trying to map out an effective strategy for opposing the Trump White House. Fox's Connor Hansen has details.
Fallout continues days after Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer and a group of other Democrats voted to pass a Republican-led spending bill. Protesters gathered outside Schumer's New York office Monday. And the senior Democrat has now canceled several events promoting his new book, with word protesters could appear there too. Over the weekend, the Democratic leader in the House says he and Schumer did not see eye to eye on his strategy.
Chuck and I disagreed as it relates to the approach and outcome relative to what we viewed as a reckless Republican spending bill.
Some Democrats are taking it a step further, even floating a possible primary challenge to the longtime New York Democrat.
Some Democrats are having that conversation.
Well, I definitely think that younger, fresher leadership may be something many Americans may be looking for.
Schumer called the spending bill terrible, but said he believed a government shutdown would be far worse. One thing Democrats do seem to agree on is that they need to change their tactics, with the new Trump administration moving at warp speed.
And we've got to offer an actual vision for economic transformation, not just say we've got to sell the status quo better.
If another Democrat does decide to challenge Schumer for his Senate seat, they'll have to wait a while. He's not up for re-election until 2028. In New York, Connor Hansen, Fox News.
President Trump will speak with Russian President Vladimir Putin on Tuesday as efforts continue to end the war in Ukraine. Fox's Alex Hogan has more from London.
We're doing pretty well, I think, with Russia.
President Trump is still pushing his Russian counterpart to agree to an immediate ceasefire in Ukraine. And on Tuesday, they'll hold their second known phone call since the start of Trump's second term. The president says his conversation with Vladimir Putin will be focused on concessions from both sides.
We'll be talking about land, we'll be talking about power plants, dividing up certain assets. Yeah, and they've been working on that.
The Ukrainians have already agreed to a ceasefire following a temporary pause in American military support, but giving up Ukrainian territory currently occupied by the Russian military could be a non-starter for President Volodymyr Zelensky.
We will do everything to make diplomacy effective, but every day now is about defending our independence, our state, and our people.
President Trump also floated the idea of more sanctions against Moscow if they don't stop their offensive in eastern Ukraine. Putin said last week he agreed to the idea of a ceasefire in principle, but only if it was focused on security guarantees for both Ukraine and Russia, including a promise that Ukraine will not become a member of NATO after Trump leaves office.
We are engaging in diplomacy, and that will involve both carrots and sticks to get both sides to the table, but to also resolve this in a way that is permanent and enduring.
Last week, Putin shot down the idea of a 30-day pause in fighting, saying it would be used by Ukraine to regroup and rearm its forces. In London, Alex Hogan, Fox News.
Dozens of people are dead after a weekend of dangerous weather. Dozens of tornadoes touched down across the Midwest, and wildfires destroyed homes across Oklahoma and Texas. The Great Plains are now bracing for a winter storm expected to hit this week. Fox's Steve Harrigan is in central Alabama as parts of the South remain under flood warnings.
Funnel right there! It's right there! Tornado on the ground! Villa Ridge, Missouri, population 2,600, taking a direct hit from an EF2 tornado. 13 people survived by hiding in the bathroom of this Burger King. Across the state, at least 12 dead.
It was a rough ordeal. Like I said, there was a deceased woman over here in the campground that's right here, which it's pretty mangled. If you go up that way, you'll see camper frames and everything on the right-hand side of the road just twisted up.
High winds fueled more than 100 wildfires in Texas and kicked up dust storms in Kansas, reducing visibility to zero on some roads and causing deadly car crashes, including one 50-car pileup.
All of a sudden, it was just hell. Sounded like a war zone. Stuff banging against the houses.
We're just basically helping people get trees off structures, driveways, any kind of help they need, just stuff like that. We got the equipment to do it.
This is Winterboro High School, south of Talladega.
Inside this gym and inside that school, inside the lunchroom, inside all the classrooms, we made a whole bunch of memories.
The school bus was thrown by the tornado onto the side of the gym wall before volunteers arrived with a tow truck to remove it.
What we're going to see in a time like this is we're going to get to see a community at its best, and seeing the best in people rise up and serve each other.
The sound of chainsaws is in the air. Some people here estimate their cleanup could take months. In Winterboro, Alabama, Steve Harrigan, Fox News.
And still to come on Fox 22 News at 10, our Alex Schley was in Bangor to highlight the celebration of St. Patrick's Day.
And in sports, Maine's men hockey is heading back to TD Garden in Boston after another home quarterfinal win. We'll be right back.
The UFL is history in motion. It's the gunslingers, the cold-blooded, and a dynasty stacking 3 straight. This is the UFL.
At Ellsworth IV Infusion and Wellness, we are here to help you look and feel your best, inside and out. Jumpstart your health journey with medical weight loss and rejuvenate your wellness with nutritional IV infusions. Renew your skin with facials or relax with soothing massage therapy.
Fires, floods, burst pipes. Disasters happen, but the mess they leave behind doesn't have to last. For 40 years, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration has been there to help Mainers get back to the closest to normal as they can. When your property is at its worst, Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration is at their best, and they have been for 4 decades. Put your trust in the Bouchard team. Bouchard Cleaning and Restoration. You keep the memories, we'll handle the rest.
Work is more than just muscle. It's knowing what to flex. Move mountains. Wake your inner groundhog. Make roots cry uncle. Together, we're unstoppable. Together, we're united. United Ag and Turf, your local John Deere dealer.
When Paramount Paving wants to know the local forecast, they log on to foxbangor.com. Paramount Paving in Old Town provides expert paving, seal coating services to eastern and central Maine. Currently booking for the 2025 season. Call for a free estimate today.
First ground rule? No challenge goes unaccepted. Together, we're unstoppable. Together, we're united. United Ag and Turf, your local John Deere dealer.
Starting May 1st, the Bureau of Motor Vehicles will begin issuing the new Pine Tree license plate. If you have a Chickadee plate, it will be replaced when you renew after May 1st at no additional charge. If you have a Chickadee plate number you want to keep, you can reserve it today online by searching Reserve My Plate and paying a one-time $25 fee. With your help, we can provide prompt and quality service to all Mainers. Brought to you by this station, the Maine Association of Broadcasters, and the Secretary of State.
At Ellsworth IV Infusion and Wellness, we are here to help you look and feel your best, inside and out. Jumpstart your health journey with medical weight loss and rejuvenate your wellness with nutritional IV infusions. Renew your skin with facials or relax with soothing massage therapy.
Consumer spending could be slowing down. New data shows Americans are spending little, and it could be due to the new policies from the Trump administration. Fox's Rich Edson takes a look.
Proceed to register 1.
American shoppers are spending less than anticipated. On Monday, the Commerce Department said there was a 0.2% rise in retail sales in February. It's a small bounce back from January when consumer spending fell 1.2%. Some lawmakers are pointing the finger at the White House and President Trump.
Donald Trump and Republicans haven't been focused on doing anything to lower the high cost of living. We know that costs are too high, and we know that people are struggling to live paycheck to paycheck.
In another recent economic survey, consumer confidence has fallen for the 3rd consecutive month. The data suggests some Americans may be cautious spending their money with policy uncertainties like new tariffs on imported goods.
We've been in for 8 weeks. We are putting the policies in place that will make the affordability crisis go down, inflation moderate.
President Trump has asked Americans to bear with him as he implements new tariffs. Administration officials maintain they'll still lower costs.
Inflation is cooling. The national average of the price of gas is down 42 cents from 1 year ago, and there was also a new report out this morning about wholesale egg prices. They continue to fall.
Though on those egg prices, one expert says Americans will have to brace for a rapidly changing market.
So the important thing to remember here is that while prices are elevated, the volatility in the change in prices is really unprecedented.
A recent report from the Department of Agriculture shows egg prices are finally starting to fall. In Washington, Rich Edson, Fox News.
The U.S. Postal Service is signing an agreement with the Department of Government Efficiency and the General Services Administration, which the Postmaster General says could save billions in taxpayer dollars. Fox's Jeff Locke is in Pennsylvania with more.
There are now 33,904 post offices across the U.S., most of them in small towns, kind of like the one you see back there behind me here in Pennsylvania. You know, the Postal Service, not under the direct control of the administration, has its own plan for cutting costs, perhaps cutting jobs, but up until now has been outside the purview of the Department of Government Efficiency. But that is all changing. I show you a letter now from the Postmaster General, Louis DeJoy. He says he has now signed an agreement with the General Services Administration and DOGE to assist us, he says, in identifying and achieving further efficiencies beyond what they've already announced. That has brought immediate scrutiny and scorn from some members of Congress. The Democratic congressman from Virginia, Gerald Connolly, saying the only thing worse for the Postal Service than DeJoy's Delivering for America plan is turning the service over to Elon Musk and DOGE so they can, quote, undermine it, privatize it, and then profit off Americans' loss. This capitulation will have catastrophic consequences for all Americans. Fact is, the Postal Service does employ a huge workforce, 635,000 workers at last count, but it also does a lot of work, delivering mail 6 days a week to 165 million addresses, both commercial and private. All of that cost them about $10 billion more than they made last year. That was losses that have gone all the way back to 2006. They did in the first quarter, though, make a small profit this year. That said, the National Association of Letter Carriers says, you know, maybe we shouldn't think of the Postal Service as something that needs to make a profit, but maybe it's really not a business as much as it is a service.
You know, the people in this country overwhelmingly support the Postal Service. So it's no matter who someone voted for in the November election, no matter what their political persuasions may be, what the vast majority of them did not vote for is some deterioration, degradation of the service that the Postal Service provides. So
the question is, will Elon Musk and his team be able to cut costs, reduce the deficits without cutting service or closing some of the small post offices that may not be very profitable, but still very important to the communities they serve? In Bernathen, Pennsylvania, I'm Jeff Locke with the Fox Business Network.
Well, 2 astronauts are set to return to Earth after living in space for more than 9 months. Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams originally set off for space in June on a week-long mission, but several complications with their Boeing Starliner left them stuck in space. Fox's Jonathan Seri has more from the Kennedy Space Center on their expected homecoming.
2 NASA astronauts are close to returning home after their original quick mission turned into a 9-month stay in space. On Sunday, Butch Wilmore and Sonny Williams greeted 4 fellow astronauts who will be their replacements at the International Space Station, the newcomers starting their journey on a SpaceX Falcon 9 rocket on Friday.
I can't wait to get to work up here, so excited for the 4 pilots and us that just got to get to space together.
Wilmore and Williams are scheduled to head back to Earth on Tuesday, this time in a SpaceX capsule. Until then, the 2 will teach the newer astronauts the ins and outs of the orbiting lab.
They're getting together and talking about things on the space station to make sure that the new crew understands everything that the old crew has run across during their time.
The 2 arrived at the station in June of last year, but had to extend their trip after various issues with the Boeing Starliner they came in. NASA ultimately made the capsule return empty.
That's what your nation's human spaceflight program is all about, planning for unknown, unexpected contingencies, and we did that.
The 2 will be returning to loved ones. Williams has said the uncertainty of when they could return to their families was the hardest part about her stay.
I have 2 Labrador retrievers right now. I think they'll be very happy for Mom to come home.
And for Wilmore, he's looking forward to face-to-face interactions with members of the Baptist Church where he's involved. At Kennedy Space Center in Florida, Jonathan Seri, Fox News.
All right, well, coming up, we have our full 5-day forecast. Keep it right here.
The rain showers out there now will linger into tomorrow, maybe ending as a bit of snow. But then what does the rest of the week look like? All those details for you when I come back.
Chevy makes affordable vehicles that help you enjoy life. Get more for less in the Chevy Trax. Maximize every mile in the all-electric Equinox. And power through with the capable Colorado. Enjoy endless possibilities and your new Chevy. Get the versatile 2025 Trax, starting at $21,795. Visit your main Chevy dealers.
John Brown first opened his own appliance store in Ellsworth in 1976. With his gift of storytelling, a strong work ethic, and a philosophy of putting others first, John and his wife and children saw the business prosper and grow. Today's third and fourth generation of family and their entire team continue to follow the example set by their grandparents and parents. Brown Appliance and Mattress, High Street, Ellsworth, a family tradition of quality, value, and customer service that always puts you first.
So the Ellington has this stunning double pedestal base, nailhead detailing, and a removable leaf for just $12.99.
This looks just like the one we saw at the other store.
Only theirs is on sale. Wait, no, it's off sale. No, it's on sale. Off sale. On sale. Off sale.
Bob's is still hundreds less.
We don't do phony sales, just the everyday low prices you deserve.
When you get our lowest prices every day, there's only one thing to say.
Oh, my Bob! When Maine Paving wants to know the local forecast, they log on to foxbangor.com. Maine Paving provides outstanding paving and seal coating services to eastern and central Maine. Currently booking for the 2025 season. Call today for a free estimate.
Up and Smoke Fireworks is family-owned with a huge selection including Brothers and Showtime, Time Bandit, and Black Hat brands. We will share our knowledge with you, then go have a blast. Up and Smoke Fireworks, 173 West Main Street, Searsport.
Can Gordon transform this band of misfits?
So are you saying you can't do it?
I'm saying that I can't all the time, dude.
Call me Gordon.
The Kitchen Nightmare season finale, Tuesday on Fox.
Here we go. Your full weather is brought to you by Blazing Trails in Lincoln. Blazing Trails provides outstanding products and customer service to Penobscot County. They're blazing the trails to holistic medicine. Let's talk weather. And here we are today with temperatures, low temperatures, not so low temperatures at 47 here in Bangor, 43 Millinocket, 45 for Rockland, and 36 for Greenville. That's way above average. And look at the highs, though. Not much movement there, right? 51 in Bangor, 53 Millinocket, 51 for Greenville. You get the idea. The clouds around all day today with the rain shower activity kept temperatures in check with those highs near 50 today. Also the wind out there, so we had a few wind gusts earlier near 25 miles per hour. Right now almost directly out of the north currently. It's going to switch out of the northwest later on tonight. We're going to keep things kind of breezy tonight into tomorrow, but then by this time tomorrow evening, the wind's going to go calm for many locations. That could give us some dense fog tomorrow night into early parts of Wednesday morning. Until then, though, we still have our small craft advisory out there. There are some wave heights approaching 4 to 6 feet that will likely linger through about midday-ish tomorrow with the waves out there tonight. All right, so lots of rain showers across the area for today. We could use the rainfall. We're in levels 1 and 2, drought conditions across the state right now. But this rain event's pretty much coming to an end tonight. There's still some light rain showers out there. Now, there's nothing heavy. Notice to the west, though, some light snow showers there. But the trajectory here from south to north will keep the rain showers around for several more hours tonight, likely ending around sunrise tomorrow morning as a couple snowflakes across the region. Then we get a break in the action for a couple days. Not this system here, but this system here will likely bring us another pretty good rain event getting here over the weekend, Friday into Saturday. Tonight, looking at rain showers out there, ending as a couple light snow flurries tomorrow morning, then keeping things mostly cloudy throughout the day tomorrow. We'll likely get some sunshine across the area on Wednesday, but then here comes our next system. Not Thursday, but Friday. This one's going to have a lot of moisture. It's going to have a lot of oomph in the atmosphere. This could easily start as rain showers on Friday and then end as some measurable snow on Saturday. So going forward, though, rainfall looks like this tonight. Looking at our half-inch of rain to the east, Machias area. The rest of us, though, not so much at all. Maybe a tenth of an inch remaining this evening. Then our next system gets in here Friday and Saturday. with another ½ to inch of rainfall at that point. Our forecast then for tonight, though, is rain mixing with some snow later on tomorrow morning. Look for low temperatures right at freezing. For tomorrow, all right, so some early morning flurries, not a big deal at all, turning mostly cloudy and breezy. That north wind could gust near 25, with air temperatures reaching for 50. We'll probably stop just short with that gusty north wind. Then looking ahead, your 5-day forecast shows 48 tomorrow, Wednesday 54. Okay, the first day of spring is on Thursday, the high at 51. Then that next system gets in here on Friday. Rain changing to snow Friday night. That rain could be locally heavy, and that snow could be locally heavy early parts of Saturday morning.
All right, Jeff, thank you so much.
Sports is next with Tyler Cruz.
We're lucky to live in Maine. We have a wealth of natural resources, hardworking people, and time for the things that matter. Mechanical Services is all about Maine, with energy efficiency that protects our environment and helps businesses grow. Preventive maintenance and energy solutions that save money. How Maine is that? Mechanical Services. We're everywhere you are in Maine.
Imagine yourself in a new Toyota. Imagine the hidden gems you'll find. Sweet.
Ribs, please.
Imagine all the dust you'll kick up.
Easy.
Imagine the memories you'll make.
Yeah.
And some you'd like to forget.
Now, from the longest-lasting brand, you could get $4.99 for $60 on a stylish all-wheel drive Camry Hybrid. Plus, get 2 years no-cost maintenance.
Go from dreaming it to driving it today.
Toyota. Let's go places.
Hi, I'm Tony Hafford from TC Hafford Basement Systems, the all things basement-y company. Basement waterproofing, basement structural repair, humidity and mold control, and nasty crawl spaces too. Since 1991, over 15,000 Maine homeowners have trusted TC Hafford Basement Systems to fix their basements. Call TC Hafford Basement Systems today for all things basement-y.
Why should your new floor come from Carpet One? Because we're passionate about the spaces our neighbors call home. We're part of your community, and we're also part of the world's largest cooperative of independently owned and operated flooring stores. So you can be sure you'll get great selection and outstanding value with every installation. Whether it's carpet, hardwood, tile, or luxury vinyl, our experts take the guesswork out of choosing the right floor. We're your local Carpet One Floor and Home, the one store for your perfect floor.
Welcome to Truck Country. Welcome to the NASCAR Craftsman Truck Series.
Welcome back in, everyone. Thank you for staying with us. Let's start with some hockey here. For the second straight year, Maine men's hockey hosting a Hockey East quarterfinal game. And for the second straight year, it's the Black Bears taking care of business in dominant fashion. After a scoreless first period, Maine exploded on offense. 7 different Black Bears found the back of the net in their 7-1 win over Hockey East 6th seed UMass Lowell. One of the goal scorers was Maine captain and graduate forward Lyndon Breen. Breen missed a good chunk of the season to a lower leg injury. He returned to the lineup in late February, and right here you're going to see his first goal since a hat trick in the game he got injured in back in November. Also, the goal coming in his last game at Alfond Arena, and that just added that much more motivation.
A lot of work for us to get to this point, and you know, our message is, whether it's playoffs or not, this is the last game here for the group together as a whole, and you know, we weren't going to let them get a sniff all night, and you know, to play a team like us that doesn't give up no matter the score, it's, you know, it's a long night for our team. That's what we plan on building the next weekend.
After a slow second half of the season offensively, Maine has really picked it up as of late. For the second straight week, they were voted the 4th in the country in the USCHO poll and ranked 3rd in the pairwise. The 7 goal scorers on Saturday is just a testament to the depth they have from top to the bottom of the roster.
Again, that's our depth and that's our culture. I mean, we got guys every night that are in and out that are scoring goals even when they're in and out. You know, that's really big for us, and that's our culture.
Yeah, I mean, that's the strength of our team is our depth, and had a lot of guys. Thought everyone showed up tonight.
The Black Bears will take on Northeastern on Thursday night at 7:30 from TD Garden. The winner plays for a Hockey East championship. Also, a big congratulations to head coach Ben Barr. He was named a Hockey East Coach of the Year finalist earlier on Monday. Moving on to some other news now. For the second time in 2 years, Husson University is beginning a nationwide search for their next director of athletics. After taking the job in 2023, athletic director John Sutyak is moving on for a position at the University of Southern Maine. Since Sutyak was hired, the Eagles teams have won 11 conference championships and 8 regular season championships. They've also qualified for 7 NCAA tournaments and hosted a regional for softball last spring. Sutyak will remain in his current role through May 10th. In a statement sent out on Monday, Husson University President Lynn Koyogan writes that Sutyak has worked tirelessly for Husson since his arrival. He's been instrumental in developing their partnership with the Nexus Licensing Group and starting the chapter of the Chi Alpha Sigma Student Athlete Honor Society, closing by wishing him the best. In his own statement, Sutyak writes that the decision to leave is one of the hardest of his professional career, that he and his family have received love and support from students, staff, and faculty at Husson, and closes by saying the experiences he's had watching Husson student athletes thrive has been phenomenal. Staying with college athletics now, Sunday night was Selection Sunday for both men's and women's college basketball. For UMaine, the Black Bears men's squad coming up just 1 game shy of the big dance for the first time ever. It was a great season for Maine. Looking in the rear view, the Black Bears finished with their best record since 2010 and their highest conference seeding since then, too. Taking 3rd in the America East, they then won their first playoff game in 20 years and booked their first trip to the conference championship in over that with a win over Vermont in their semis. Their first over Vermont in 30 games, so a lot to look forward to next year for the Maine men. Let's go to the baseball diamond now. Whether or not it looks like it or feels like it, baseball season is upon us. On Tuesday morning, the first pitch of the MLB season will be thrown in the Tokyo series, and our Red Sox are just over a week away from their opening day. The Red Sox getting closer and closer to the 2025 campaign. This weekend, Rafael Devers making his spring debut. He played again on Monday, doubling home an RBI earlier in the day. The pitching has been great, too. Garrett Crochet, arguably the best acquisition for the Red Sox this offseason. The starter has thrown just 10 1/3 innings over his 4 spring training starts, but has recorded 21 of those 31 outs via strikeout. He was named the Sox opening day starter for next Thursday in Texas.
It's cool, yeah. Obviously I did it last year. But this year definitely really had to earn it. Some really good arms on the staff, but I'm excited. Not to downplay, but it's just another start. It's just a matter of when my first one was going to be. Happens to be opening day, and I'm really excited about that. And, I hope to, shoulder all the responsibilities that come with it with pride and, just lead this team.
Certainly looking forward to that. That is all the time we have for sports. We'll be right back after the break.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
Your local financial partner has a new name, the County Federal Credit Union. And we're inspired by the people we serve, the big dreamers and smart planners, the risk takers and trailblazers. As a lifelong partner offering powerful tools and personal service, we were built for our members. Start a financial relationship that's driven by community and inspired by you. Visit countyfcu.org.
You live in vacation land, right? Then get out and vacation, why don't you? And do it in style by renting an RV from Maine Campo Rentals. Fully furnished, fully insured, ready to roll out and explore. Or maybe you have relatives visiting you. Save your marriage, save the hotel expense, put them up in an affordable RV from Maine Campo Rentals. We'll deliver to Acadia and local campgrounds too. Call or visit online at mainecamporentals.com. Put away that cell phone and discover vacation land with Maine Campo Rentals in Brewer.
Great Scott! This is Green Bear 420 in 2010. What kind of trip is this? I gotta get back to 2023. Wait, it's 2015. So much has changed. In 2023, we had a lot more glass, t-shirts, and novelties. It's gonna take a bolt of lightning to get me home. Finally, home at last. Now Green Bear 420, Green Bear Green Care is bigger and better than ever. To be continued.
Rowell's Garage has been serving customers in the greater Dover-Foxcroft region since 1946. Our goal is not just selling you a vehicle, but also giving you quality service to maintain your vehicle at peak performance. Browse our inventory online or in person. Whether it's a car, truck, or SUV, we can put you in the vehicle that is right for you. Sales, service, and parts. Rowell's Garage, doing business the right way every day.
Blazing Trails, located in Lincoln, is your #1 trusted caregiver storefront. From personalized consultations to the highest quality product, Blazing Trails provides outstanding patient services to Eastern and Central Maine. Discover how we're blazing the trails to quality holistic medicine.
Tuesday, don't miss Doc's unforgettable season finale.
It's time to tell me the truth.
Doc, season finale, Tuesday on Fox.
A popular Polynesian princess, a werewolf, and an iconic Batman villain are among the new digital DVD and music releases available to add to your home library. Fox's Ashley Dvorkin runs down the list of what's new in home entertainment.
Moana 2 tops the list of what's new in home entertainment. The Golden Globe-nominated sequel follows Moana, Maui, and friends on a new adventure to save her people and reconnect lost islands.
Your behavior is unacceptable.
Is it?
The erotic thriller Baby Girl, starring Nicole Kidman and Harris Dickinson, centers on a high-powered CEO who engages in a dangerous affair with her intern.
He's mean.
Christopher Abbott and Julia Garner star in the horror thriller Wolfman. The reimagining of the 1941 classic follows a man desperately trying to protect his family from a werewolf, only to become infected and slowly transform into the creature. Julianne Moore and Tilda Swinton star in The Room Next Door, about a writer recruited by her terminally ill friend to assist her in self-euthanasia.
President awarded Colonel Lee Gunner the Medal of Honor.
A war veteran tries to save his sons from a dangerous drug gang in the action thriller Gunner.
I ain't giving myself to any of you.
In the Western Guns of Redemption, a mysterious gunslinger with a violent past fights to save two sisters being held captive by murderous men.
Penguin. You waltzing in here like you mean something.
Small screen favorites to own, Season 1 of the Batman spin-off series The Penguin, starring Colin Farrell. And Season 2 of Sylvester Stallone's mob series Tulsa King.
When I was young.
For music fans, Selena Gomez and Benny Blanco released their collaborative album, I Said I Love You First. It marks their first project as a couple. In Hollywood, Ashley Dvorkin, Fox News.
Off-duty and retired first responders ready to work, and work that needs doing. Fox's Steve Nilsson reports on an organization that's connecting the workers and the work.
Alfred's hard at work, putting together an important piece to a Valley daycare.
Safety's always involved, so you always want to make sure that, you do it according to the instructions and make sure that it'll be able to hold the weight.
This time, the task isn't too difficult, a wall-hanging changing station. But the time spent here also meant some fun with the kids.
They're just a joy, See them smiling and laughing and jumping around.
Rose World Daycare is unique, catering to the extreme schedules of the medical industry.
We open at 4 a.m. and we don't close until 8 p.m. because when I was in medical, when I had to be to work at 5, I had trouble finding daycare that opened up early enough.
She needed the changing station installed, but she struggled to hire just anyone for the job.
Now, I had this changing table for a few months, trying to find someone who I can trust to come into a licensed daycare center,
That's where Helpful Heroes comes in. The company connects off-duty and retired firefighters and EMTs to handiwork needed in the area. Alfred's a retired firefighter lieutenant from outside of Chicago. For Patina, that means she can trust him, which is so important. And for Alfred, it means he can keep being a help, even though he's retired.
I enjoy helping people, and I enjoy building things and doing things, installing stuff.
After just 30 minutes, his job was done. The changing station was safely installed to the wall, all according to the directions. Now he has more jobs to complete this day.
Ready to go to my next job.
Looks like a great organization there. Well, PepsiCo has announced a deal to purchase a prebiotic soda company. That soda brand says it agreed to buy Poppi for $1.95 billion on Monday. The announcement comes as the soda industry faces criticism from President Trump's administration, including Health and Human Services Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who has labeled soda as poison. Meanwhile, sales for prebiotic drinks are expected to be on the rise as Coca-Cola predicts products like Poppi will bring in more than $2 billion by 2029. PepsiCo says the deal features $300 million in cash tax benefits, bringing the price of the net purchase to about $1.65 billion.
A new exhibit at the Maine Maritime Museum in Bath is attracting readers of all ages. Upon that aisle in Maine is a temporary exhibit showcasing the stories and work of Camden children's author and illustrator Chris Van Dusen. Many readers know the Camden author's famous books like The Circus Ship or his tales about Mr. McGee and his dog Dee. The museum even has a station where visitors can learn to draw Dee by hand. That's where we found Holly Ross of Kennebunkport, who remembers Chris Van Dusen from his younger days.
Yes, we grew up in the same town. I mean, we were probably at high school at different times, and he had many brothers, and but some of them, and I believe it was Chris, did a puppet show business back in the day.
The Chris Van Dusen exhibit will be on display at the Maine Maritime Museum in Bath until March 2026. The museum is open 7 days a week from 9:30 a.m. until 5 p.m.
Well, the Guinness started flowing bright and early this morning in Bangor with Irish pub Paddy Murphy's opening its doors at 6 a.m. Our Alex Schley tells us the rain certainly didn't stop folks in Bangor from celebrating the luck of the Irish.
The St. Patrick's Day celebration kicked off early Monday morning at Paddy Murphy's in Bangor.
We were here at 5 a.m.
Martha Ward was the first in line, showing up before the sun came up.
I think it was 5:30 by the time other people showed up. So
Paddy Murphy's has made it a tradition to open at 6 a.m. on St. Patrick's Day.
Opened the Irish pub here in 2007, and it's been our tradition for 6 a.m. on St. Paddy's Day. And it's a great time.
For many, going to Paddy Murphy's at 6 a.m. every year has become part of their holiday tradition.
I don't know, we started about 10, 12 years ago, and it's just something we have to do every year.
For others, this was their first time taking part in the tradition.
My best friend, Abby. She's on Team Murph. She works here. Off duty, off the clock. Yes. Had to come here. And yeah, we're really excited. It's St. Patrick's Day.
This group of UMaine students waited to leave for spring break so they could take part in the celebration.
We'll leave tomorrow, you know. We're here. We had to be here at Paddy Murphy's today. 6 a.m. We start drinking, and there's nothing like it.
The pub will have live music, food, and drink specials all day.
You know, we have a really loyal, dedicated following, and the folks who come this early are really just want to have a great time in a nice, relaxed atmosphere.
Paddy Murphy's will be open until 1 a.m. Tuesday morning. In Bangor, I'm Alex Schley for ABC 7 and Fox 22 News.
So I guess you have a couple hours left if for some reason you haven't started celebrating yet.
I think it's about time to go grab a drink, maybe.
Alrighty then. Well, that is going to do it for us from everybody here at Fox 22 News. Take care and have a great night.
We'll see you later.
For more local news coverage, switch over to our sister station, ABC 7, right now for ABC 7 News at 11.
What's up, guys? What I'm about to show you is going to change the way you shave your head forever.
I got
this weakness. Can't help myself, my crowning achievement. It'll drag me down to hell. I got a secret. Oh, can you tell? Can try to keep it till it drags you. It'll drag me down to hell.
Jason Momoa from a Minecraft movie and actress Rachel Zegler from Snow White on an
This is ABC 7 News at 11.
The state of Maine is in the midst of what many are